Today on the newscast, as Hamas and Palestinian Islamic Jihad vow revenge over the weekend's deadly clashes at the Al-Aqsa Mosque, we will break down the latest from Jerusalem, that city which is sacred to Jews, Muslims, and Christians alike, and Palestinians have been wounded in clashes near the Al-Aqsa Mosque. Now, Hamas and Palestinian Islamic Jihad are vowing revenge after those clashes which left 300 Palestinians and some 24 Israeli police officers wounded. So what exactly happened? Well, it began with a controversial flag procession by right-wing Jewish activists, some 500 of them making their way through the old city of Jerusalem. But the concern is that Hamas and Palestinian Islamic Jihad are looking for a spark to ignite a larger conflict. And certainly the Al-Aqsa Mosque and the Temple Mount fit that bill. In East Jerusalem, the Palestinians claim all of East Jerusalem as their future capital. That's why you have constant friction and fighting on the Temple Mount, which again, both sides consider to be their holiest site. Now remember, Israel captured Jerusalem in 1967, reconquered their ancient and ancestral capital. God bless you. And remember, never hold your peace. They've been there ever since, but they still do not have full control of the city that they call their eternal capital. Make sure you hit the subscribe button so you never miss an upload. And don't forget to share your thoughts, insights, and comments below. Thanks for watching. We'll see you back here tomorrow. These right-wing Israelis waving the blue and white Israeli flag, but also flags bearing the inscription of a price tag. About 80% of the people living in East Jerusalem are Palestinians, as opposed to in West Jerusalem, which is where the Israeli government offices are located, where most of the Jews live. About 75% of the population there is Jewish. Now, the Palestinians in East Jerusalem are not happy about the occupation, obviously, of their territory, which began in 1967, and they chafe under the boot of the occupation, which is why you see constant clashes, not only in East Jerusalem, but in the West Bank, which is what we call the biblical heartland of Judea and Samaria. A so-called Jewish terror group that has carried out numerous attacks against Palestinian targets in the West Bank, in Judea, the biblical heartland that the world knows as the West Bank. Get all the breaking details next. Well, a two-state solution is always bandied about, Israel and Palestine, each with their own state, living side by side in peace and security. But folks, we know that has failed. It has failed many times over the past several decades. So what is the solution? Well, the Bible says that Jerusalem will be called the city of peace. And when it comes to the Temple Mount, Isaiah 56:7 says that it will be a house of prayer for all nations. But right now, sadly, it is far from that. Right now, it is a powder keg. Hey folks, welcome to the newscast. A very busy couple of days in Jerusalem, obviously, as hundreds of Israelis, and it all goes back to that unresolved status quo that grants Muslims control over the Temple Mount while allowing Jews to visit but not pray at the Western Wall, which is the only remaining section of that second Jewish temple that stood on the Temple Mount some 2,000 years ago. Over the years, that has led to many, many violent clashes between Israelis and Palestinians on and around the Temple Mount. And we saw it again this past Friday. Now, these right-wing Israeli activists, they entered the Temple Mount, an area known to your viewers as the holiest site in Judaism. It's where the ancient Jewish temple stood. But for Muslims, of course, it's the third holiest site in Islam, home to the Al-Aqsa Mosque and the Dome of the Rock, and that's the rub. When these right-wing Israelis entered the Temple Mount compound, also known as the Haram al-Sharif, or the Noble Sanctuary in Arabic, they were met with stones and firebombs thrown by Palestinians, who were gathered there for Friday prayers. The police obviously got involved and things really turned violent. Now Hamas and Palestinian Islamic Jihad are vowing revenge over what they say is the desecration of the Al-Aqsa Mosque and the Haram al-Sharif. On yesterday's Watchman newscast, I mentioned how the Temple Mount, the most volatile place on earth, folks, it seems, has been a flashpoint for decades now. Now, the good news is that things have quieted down for the moment. Over in East Jerusalem, which was captured by Israel in 1967 and never annexed, Palestinians make up a majority of the population there. But to get back to Jerusalem specifically, many of the Palestinians there want their own state of Palestine. What can the world do to help resolve this conflict? If you want to know more about the history of the Temple Mount, the Old City of Jerusalem, the Wailing Wall, the Dome of the Rock, the Al-Aqsa Mosque, we have some great resources on our website. Until tomorrow, thanks for joining us here on the newscast. Hey everyone, thanks for checking out the newscast.